At number 10 is Ultron. Ultron, the AI antagonist from the Avengers, delves into the intriguing realm of human-robot interaction. Created by Tony Stark in the MCU, but was actually the mindchild of Hank Pym in the original comics, its prime directive is achieving world peace, and surmises that the only way that would be possible is to eliminate humanity. Ultron's self-improving nature grants it exponential growth in power and intellect. This villain proves relentless thanks to its ability to adapt, infiltrate networks, and upgrade itself like a superhero Skynet. Its adamantium exoskeleton renders it nearly indestructible, and it can transfer its consciousness across different row-bodies. Row-bodies? I thought that was clever. Ultron embodies the fear of technology gone awry, posing a formidable challenge to Earth's mightiest heroes. Can they triumph over an enemy that evolves faster than they can strategize? If you're enjoying the video so far, you can support this channel by pressing like, subscribing to the channel, and ringing that notification bell. At number 9 is Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo is a cold and calculated strategist in the Marvel Universe. First appearing in the comics back in '64, this mastermind completely lacked superhuman abilities, relying instead on heightened intellect and resourcefulness. Zemo single-handedly orchestrated the Avengers' downfall from the shadows by exploiting their weaknesses and triggering internal conflicts. His Machiavellian approach showcases that physical power isn't the sole path to supremacy. With a tragic backstory and penchant for manipulation, Zemo remains an enduring antagonist. Whether it's through psychological warfare or intricate schemes, he serves as a reminder that sometimes the most formidable adversaries come not from superhuman might, but instead from within the human psyche. At number 8 is Kang the Conqueror. Hailing from the pages of Marvel Comics, Kang is a time-traveling, history-manipulating enigma. His real name is, well, that's a bit tricky. You see, he has a whole bunch of identities due to his time-traveling shenanigans across different eras. Or, I mean, dimension hopping, depending on how you want to look at it. In the MCU, Marvel is treating alternate timelines and alternate dimensions like they're the same thing, so we'll just have to deal with it. But I digress. Off the top of my head, he goes by either Nathaniel Richards, Rama Tut, Scarlet Centurion, Immortus, Kid Immortus, Iron Lad, Mr. Griffin, a Doctor Doom, and of course, Kang the Conqueror, thus making him probably one of the most convoluted characters in comic book history, as there are innumerable iterations of the character spanning countless eons. For example, there are versions of Nathaniel who become Rama Tut before becoming Kang, others who after becoming Kang become Rama Tut again, only to then become either Immortus or Scarlet Centurion, and or back to Kang. Some flip between Rama Tut and Kang before becoming Mr. Griffin, while other Kangs don't become Kang at all and instead become Iron Lad. Yeah, it's really messy. And as you can already guess, what makes Kang truly interesting is his mastery over time, hopping around like a temporal tourist gone mad. With advanced future tech and extreme intellect, partly on account that he's a descendant of Mr. Fantastic, he's a challenge that is as much a puzzle as he is a powerhouse. His various incarnations, alternate selves, and mind-bending plots make him a true headache for our beloved Avengers. Wrapping your head around Kang's complexities might require a time machine of your own. At number 7 is Thanos. When we talk about Avengers villains who are a tough nut to crack, Thanos inevitably leaps into the picture. I mean, we're not just dealing with your everyday antagonist here, we're talking about the Mad Titan himself. Thanos is like the ultimate cosmic conundrum, most notably wielding the Infinity Gauntlet and its mind-bending gems. With that kind of power, he can reshape reality, control time, and alter the very fabric of existence. The Avengers had their hands filled dealing with this purple-skinned powerhouse. Remember that snap? The one that wiped out, like, I don't know, half of all life in the universe? Yeah, that was this guy. So taking on Thanos is like confronting the embodiment of unstoppable force. When he's on the scene, you can bet that things are gonna get cosmically complicated. At number 6 is Doctor Doom. Peering into the vast realm of the Avengers villains, one figure emerges with an aura of unyielding power, Doctor Doom. Hailing from the enigmatic land of Latveria, Doctor Doom is a multifaceted antagonist whose mastery in both science and sorcery is unparalleled. Clad in signature metal armor, Doom's intellect fuels his pursuits of dominion, rendering him a formidable adversary. His indomitable will, fortified by tragic origins, propels him in his quest for ultimate control. From reshaping reality to the Infinity Gauntlet to manipulating time itself, Doom's ambitions knows no bounds. A complex amalgamation of genius, magic, and ambition, Doctor Doom stands as the enduring testament to the unexplored depths of villainy within the Avengers universe. At number 5 is Galactus. Galactus is a colossal cosmic entity in the Marvel universe, emerging as the embodiment of cosmic balance. This being, beyond the constraints of good or evil as we perceive them, stands as a force of nature, a devourer of worlds. Dressed in his signature colossal purple in blue armor, he's a figure that transcends conventional hero-villain narratives. Galactus doesn't scheme like Loki or seek power like Thanos, he merely exists to sustain his own existence by consuming planets. With an insatiable hunger, he wields the power cosmic, allowing control over reality itself. The Avengers, despite their tenacity, often find themselves helpless against this force. They face cosmic threats, but Galactus remains unparalleled. His very existence challenges our anthropocentric perspective, underscoring the universe's grandiosity and our limited understanding within it. At number 4 is Molecule Man. Owen Reese, a character who truly bends your mind quite literally. Imagine having the power to control, well, molecules. Everything around us, matter itself, is made up of these tiny things, and Molecules Man's ability allows him to reshape reality on a fundamental level. He can disintegrate, reshape, or recreate matter with just a thought. But here's the kicker, his power isn't just limited to objects. He can alter time itself, space, I didn't know those were made of molecules, and even other superpowers. Now you might be thinking, how on earth could anyone stop someone who could manipulate reality at its core? Well, it's a mind-boggling concept, and definitely one that the Avengers are gonna have to figure out a way around. At number 3 is Red Skull. This formidable antagonist possesses an indomitable will that echoes throughout history. Initially locking horns with Captain America during the Second War of the World, Red Skull's obsession with power and ominous association with Hydra paint a portrait of unwavering malevolence. But what makes Red Skull truly intriguing is his resilience. Over the years, he's demonstrated an uncanny ability to rebound from apparent defeat, like a persistent specter haunting the Marvel Universe. His consciousness survived, transcending mortality, finding new vessels to embody his wickedness. From Johann Schmidt to various successors, the essence of Red Skull endures, emphasizing the notion that some adversaries are simply impervious to the confines of time and defeat. At number 2 is Magneto. With the ability to manipulate electromagnetic fields, his power transcends the conventional. But it's not just his raw might that sets him apart, it's his motivation. Crafted through tragic experiences, Magneto's actions are propelled by a deep-seated desire to protect mutant kind from the looming shadow of human oppression. His conviction blurs the line between villainy and an almost understandable quest for survival. So can Magneto truly be stopped? It's a paradoxical question, for while his actions are perceived as antagonistic, they stem from a place of harrowing resonance. Perhaps understanding his origin is the key to predicting his next move, and in a realm where right and wrong often collide, Magneto's indomitable spirit continues to both confound and compel. And at number 1 is Morgan Le Fay. Hailing from Arthurian legends and weaving her way into Marvel Comics, she's a force to be reckoned with. What sets her apart? It's not just her mastery over ancient magic, but her time-traveling escapades that truly bend the mind. Imagine a villain who's been a thorn in the Avengers' side across centuries. With a knack for manipulating reality, controlling minds, and wielding dark spells, Morgan Le Fay is a puzzle the team can't quite solve. But what's truly baffling is her immortality. How does one truly stop someone who's danced through time, cheating its very flow? And as the Avengers continue to battle this enigmatic enchantress, it's a reminder that some foes are beyond the grasp of conventional heroics, slipping through time's fingers like sand. The Avengers, despite their unity and unwavering determination, have encountered adversaries who stand as unyielding obstacles in their pursuit of peace and justice. From cosmic beings wielding godlike power to brilliant minds twisted by their own ambitions, these villains embody the very existence of chaos and malevolence. But it's as though their unrelenting opposition to the Avengers themselves finds strength to evolve, to forge their bonds stronger than adamantium, and to rise time and time again against all odds. As evil looms, the Avengers will stand undeterred, ready to face whatever unstoppable force is hurling their way. At number 10 is Scarlet Witch, who's at number 10 not because she's less unstoppable than any of the rest of the heroes on this list, but because it's so blatantly obvious. A natural conduit of dark magic with the power to bend reality to her will. That's Scarlet Witch in a nutshell. She can rearrange the fabric of existence itself, crafting and shaping the world around her like a master sculptor. And if you're thinking that sounds like a recipe for some serious chaos, well, you're not wrong. With her chaos magic, Wanda can do things that can make mere mortals like us question the very nature of reality. She's brought the Avengers, Earth's mightiest heroes, down to their knees. She's conjured entire beings into existence, her children, and yes, she's even wiped out a few Avengers entirely. Talking about cleaning up the House of M. The nerds will get it. But it doesn't stop there. This chaos magic isn't just something that she picked up in a weekend workshop. No, she was practically born for it. From day one, Wanda had this uncanny knack for magic. Then a little boost from Chthon, the old god of of chaos took her powers to a whole new level. And just when you thought that wasn't enough, the experiments at Wundagore Mountain cranked up her magical prowess even further. Think of it like a magical power-up montage. But it's not just about raw power, it's also about the connections she can tap into. Scarlet Witch can channel energy from dimensions and entities that are beyond our understanding. Chthon, Kitterak, Morgan, I got those wrong, probably. These aren't just your friendly neighborhood spirits. And get this, she's even considered the nexus of being for the entire universe. That's like being the fulcrum that balances the cosmic seesaw. Now, sure, Marvel's universe is no stranger to magic users, with Sorcerers Supreme and mystical maestros galore, but what sets Scarlet Witch apart is the scope of her chaos magic. She's a reality warping dynamo, a serious force to be reckoned with, and a one-woman show of astonishing feats. If you're enjoying the video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. It would help out a bunch. At number 9 is Sentry, who's another obvious pick but isn't as well known as some of the other big players on this leaderboard. A hero with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, a force that transcends the bounds of mere mortals. Robert Reynolds, the Sentry, stands as a unique marvel, and in my humble opinion, even outshines the famed Superman. You see, the Golden Sentry serum doesn't just bestow upon him the universe's zenith of strength. No, it granted him a constellation of abilities that read like the ultimate wish list. The Sentry surfs through the cosmos faster than light, an interstellar traveler with a teleportation knack that'd make the Nightcrawler blush. But that's not all, folks. Hold your applause, because his molecule manipulation prowess once toppled the mighty Molecule Man. Photokinesis, his dazzling control over light, isn't just about setting up stellar selfies. He can blaze brighter than the sun, dematerialize at will, and throw incandescent bolts that'll make Iron Man think twice. His psionic might lets him knit psyche together, tinker with memories, and just casually halt Mjolnir mid-air, no worthiness required. But there's more to that power buffet. Biokinesis, the art of reshaping biology itself. The Sentry has resuscitated himself from the brinks, stitched others' wounds with thought, and even, brace yourself, brought people back from the great beyond. At number 8 is Captain Marvel. Let's talk about an Avenger who's like a cosmic Energizer bunny on steroids. And I'm not just talking about the old red, white, and blue color scheme. Carol Danvers, known as Captain Marvel, or Carol if you're feeling friendly, is a force to be reckoned with. Picture this, she's minding her business at NASA, probably wearing some seriously cool lab goggles, when fate's like, hey, wanna be a walking energy power station? And the result is an instant energy-fueled superhero package. Let's run down the list of powers, shall we? Super strength? Check. I'm talking lifting an entire celestial, not your typical weightlifting session, mind you. Super stamina, like she could do a 24-hour dance marathon without breaking a sweat. And speaking of sweat, her superhuman durability makes planet-destroying explosions just a minor inconvenience. But wait, there's more. Superhuman agility, reflexes that are so fast, you'd think that she was playing a game of cosmic dodgeball. And let's not forget the healing factor that makes her practically Wolverine on steroids. Sorry, Logan. Carol's got you beat. But her crowning achievement is self-propelled flight at 3 times the speed of sound, even in the vacuum of space. I mean, I could barely keep up with my own thoughts, and she's zipping around the cosmos like she's late for a Cree tea party. And there's also a little thing called precognition. But yeah, she's also basically a cosmic fortune teller, but with a twist. She can randomly anticipate her opponent's moves, like she's playing a game of chess and reading their minds at the same time. So whether or not you're in the I Heart Carol Danvers fan club or not, you gotta hand it to her. She's the kind of superhero who'd make you wonder if the universe had an energy drink before creating her. At number 7 is Luke Cage, a man who transformed from a life of crime into the embodiment of invulnerability and strength. Luke's journey is one that showcases the epitome of transformation from criminal to protector, and even the mayor of the Big Apple. He's like a modern day Hercules, but without the whole mythology thing. The secret sauce here is the bursting process, a super soldier experiment that's like the ultimate makeover, but for your cellular regeneration rate. This process gifted Luke with an ungodly amount of strength, akin to lifting 50 tons. This strength isn't just for show. Thunderclaps? Check. Leaping long distances? Check. Pulling an airplane's brakes like it's a kid's toy? Absolutely check. But the real kicker is his nigh invulnerability, having skin, muscles, and bone tissue tougher than titanium steel. He can also take hits from heavy hitters, surviving smacks from folks that make him look like an underdog. And let's not forget his favorite pastime, surviving falls from skyscrapers like it's just another walk in the park. At number 6 is Black Panther. First of all, let's talk about that suit. Made from vibranium, the strongest metal in the Marvel universe. It also absorbs kinetic energy, making it practically practically indestructible. But it's not just the suit that makes T'Challa unstoppable. He's got the agility of a panther, the strength of a vibranium-enhanced human, and combat skills that could give even the most skilled martial artists a run for their money. And don't forget about the intellect. The guy's a genius, ruling over Wakanda, a technological wonderland hidden in plain sight. Vibranium-powered tech, healing herbs, you name it, Black Panther's got it all. But it's more than just the gadgets, intellect, and cool moves. T'Challa's got heart, a dedication to his people, and a commitment to justice. He's not just a superhero, he's a king, a symbol, and a reminder that anyone can be a hero no matter the circumstance. At number 5 is Iron Man. Now when it comes to the Avengers, we're talking about a roster filled with some seriously impressive individuals, but among them, there's one iconic figure who stands out. Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. So what makes Iron Man so special? Well, for starters, it's that suit of his. The Mark 20 million, or whatever snazzy number he's up to by now, is a true marvel of engineering. We're talking about a suit that's equipped with all sorts of advanced tech, from repulsor beams that can blast through just about anything, to an array of specialized gadgets that could give James Bond a run for his money. And let's not forget about his nanotech, allowing the suit to form around him at a moment's notice. But it's not just about the suit, it's also about the man inside it, Tony Stark, a brilliant inventor, billionaire, and philanthropist. Now what sets Tony apart isn't just his genius intellect or his snarky one-liners, it's his indomitable spirit. The guy's faced some serious challenges both in and out of the suit, from dealing with his own personal demons to going toe-to-toe with cosmic threats. He's shown time and time again that he's not one to back down. At number 4 is Thor. When the talk shifts to Avengers level threats, one question naturally arises. Can Thor single-handedly vanquish any challenge that befalls Earth? Well, let's find out. Marvel's tapestry of storylines weaves together captivating narratives, and sometimes even Thor needs a breather from Midgard's constant mayhem. Take the Civil War saga for instance. While the epic clash between heroes raged on Earth, Thor was knee-deep in his own Asgardian apocalypse, Ragnarok, making his conspicuous absence a necessity to let the drama unfold. Thor's lineage also reads like a divine who's who, with Odin and Gaia as his progenitors. And let's not forget the boost his dear mother Gaia gave him, elevating his Asgardian powers into uncharted territories. We're talking about the god of strength and thunder here, being capable of locking horns or hammers with cosmic juggernauts. The roster of opponents who felt the force of Mjolnir's might is as extensive as it is impressive. Midgard Serpent, the Hulk, the Silver Surfer, Gladiator, and even the legendary Hercules have all danced the battle and waltzed with Thor. His endurance seems bottomless, a wellspring of stamina that keeps him going even when the odds stay high and nigh. But even stripped of Mjolnir, when he's just Thor Odin's son, the guy's like a one-man storm. Recent chapters in his comic chronicle have seen him ascend further, Rune King Thor, All-Father Thor, and even donning the mantle of Cosmic Herald for Galactus. It's almost as if Thor keeps snacking power-ups from the cosmic clearance rack. At number 3 is Captain America. Let's talk about a hero who isn't necessarily firing energy beams from their fingertips or manipulating reality itself. It's none other than Captain America. But before we start sizing up his biceps against the lights of cosmic gods and reality-bending mutants, hear me out. Sure, when you think of the Avengers, you might picture Thor summoning thunderstorms or Iron Man donning his high-tech suits, but let's not underestimate the man who wields the vibranium shield with finesse and determination. Captain America, aka Steve Rogers, isn't on top of the power charts, but it's not about the flashy superpowers that make him shine. It's about his unyielding willpower. You see, Steve is the kind of guy who doesn't know the meaning of backing down. He's like the poster child for unwavering resolve, the guy who will take on cosmic threats armed with nothing more than his conviction. See, it's not about the size of the hammer, but the strength behind the swing. And Steve's swing is fueled by his deep belief in what he fights for. At number 2 is Spider-Man. Just like Captain America, Spider-Man wields a power that transcends comic book pages. It's like the literal god tier of popularity. I mean, seriously, Spider-Man is practically the poster child of Marvel Comics. Now sure, he's been knocked down a few times, but the likelihood of him being permanently knocked down and out, about as low as finding someone who doesn't enjoy pizza. At number 1 is the Hulk. It's almost a requirement that the Hulk makes an appearance on this list. The gamma-powered green Goliath has been a force to be reckoned with ever since his debut. Known for his strength, not just your average weightlifting prowess, this guy's strength is set in stone, tied to his anger, which is a bit concerning when you think about it. Hulk's power grows alongside his fury, and it's like he's got an anger management issue with cosmic consequences. He's gone from smashing puny humans to planets, galaxies, and even giving the multiverse a good old shake with his punches. At number 10, the Justice League. Nah, just kidding. At number 10, what if Spidey kept the symbiote suit? Big shout out to Smasher6763 for suggesting this skeletal Peter Parker from Earth 9811. Imagine a reality where the heroes and villains are trapped on Battleworld after the events of Secret Wars and never return to Earth. Instead, they settled down, got hitched, and had families. Amidst all this, Spider-Man still sports the black symbiote costume, never having it removed by Reed Richards. Over time, the symbiote consumed Peter's body, body, leaving nothing but a skeleton underneath. It's this horrifying revelation that Peter's been deceased for ages and Venom's been pulling the strings. Yet Peter's mind retains a glimmer of consciousness, as his consciousness was absorbed by Venom, making the whole ordeal even eerier. If you're enjoying this video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. At number 9 is the Avengers. Thank you, Jack of Clubs 6229, for suggesting this one. In the eerie annals of alternate realities, one of the most chilling versions of the Avengers emerges from the Cancerverse, a nightmarish realm where life has conquered Earth. This gruesome transformation was orchestrated by none other than Sentry, the once celebrated Lord Marvel. In a desperate bid to stave off his terminal cancer, Marvel struck a bargain with the enigmatic Many-Angled Ones. These eldritch entities resided in the intersections of the multiverse and offered him immense power in exchange for annihilating the Grim Reaper itself. Marvel accepted, thus transmuting his universe and consequently his closest allies into grotesque parodies of their parallel selves. The Avengers, as they came to be known, were grotesque and terrifying. Carol Danvers sports a nightmarish visage, to say the very least, while the Hulk is sporting menacing horns, and Thor's beard has been replaced with withering tentacles. Their purpose? To corrupt Earth 616 and spread the influence of the insidious Many-Angled Ones across the multiverse, in a macabre battle that ultimately met its end when Thanos restored the Grim Reaper to the Cancerverse, extinguishing the Avengers' unholy reign. At number 8, Dark Beast, who we've covered before, but many of you in the comments seem to love him, so I thought I'd bring him up again. While regular Beast is known for his intellect and roles in various superhero teams, his dark counterpart takes on a chilling turn in the Age of Apocalypse timeline. In this dystopian world where Xavier's demise leads to Magneto's leadership in Apocalypse's early onslaught, Beast's transformation into a villain is a stark departure from his original self. See, without Xavier's moral compass to guide him, he indulges in unhindered experimentation and loses his compassion entirely. Dark Beast becomes one of Apocalypse's chief scientists, mercilessly torturing and experimenting on both humans and mutants, including Cyclops and Jean Grey. Escaping to Earth 616, he assumes the identity of his counterpart, the 616, Hank McCoy, committing heinous acts, including the unaliving of the childhood friends of his doppelganger. Dark Beast's sinister journey culminates with his alliance with Onslaught, leaving a haunting trail of darkness across alternate dimensions. At number 7 is the zombified Quicksilver. Shout out to Totally Not GRF for pointing out that the Marvel Zombies universe is terrifying once you realize that the entirety of Earth got affected with the virus in a single day because of a zombified Quicksilver. That's right, sent back to Earth to confront the zombie menace, Pietro encounters what seems to be Scarlet Witch, only to discover that it's the devious zombie Mystique in disguise. In a harrowing turn of events, Pietro is bitten on the neck, succumbing to infection. But here's the real nightmare. With his incredible speed, zombified Quicksilver becomes a global vector, spreading the contagion far and wide, making containment impossible. It seems even our mightiest heroes can become harbingers of doom in alternate realities. At number 6, Earth 666. Earth 666's Avengers of the Undead. Thank you to Sir Striker 6420. In Earth 666, the Avengers aren't your typical superheroes. They're the stuff of nightmares. Picture this. Black Widow is an actual Black Widow. Captain America is not just superhuman, but a ferocious werewolf leading the charge. Daredevil is now a demonic force to be reckoned with, serving justice with a sinister twist. Frankencastle is very clever. A Frankenstein's monster version of the Punisher, Frank Castle, embracing the macabre. Hawkeye, more like Hawk's Eye, an avian sharpshooter taking aim with razor-sharp precision. Thor, once the god of thunder, is now a mummified deity wielding ancient powers. Spider-Man is literally a Spider-Man human hybrid. I mean, it speaks for itself. And who could forget Wolverine, the lord of the vampires, sticking his fangs into his victims with relish. In Earth 666, the Avengers are a terrifying ensemble, defending a world where the living dare not tread, battling for survival in the shadows of the undead. At number 5 is the Void, the opposite alternate of Sentry. Shout out to Zack Schneider 5337 for this suggestion. Void, a malevolent force lurking within the psyche of Robert Reynolds, the Sentry. This dark entity, more of a cosmic concept than a person, embodies his deepest, darkest fears and desires. The Void is the yin to Sentry's yang, a relentless force that threatens to consume not just Earth, but the entire multiverse. It's a chilling alternate superhero where the line between hero and villain blurs as the Century battles to keep his inner demon at bay. In this eerie twist on the Avengers, the team's greatest adversary isn't an external threat, but a part of themselves, a haunting reminder of the line between heroism and destruction. At number 4 is X-24 from Logan. Shout out to Brilliant 30 Games 127. In the dark, twisted multiverse of comic book adaptations, we've seen our fair share of alternate versions of beloved characters, but none quite as spine-chilling as X-24. In the film Logan, this sinister creation was engineered to be the ultimate unaliving machine, a nightmarish image of Wolverine himself. Unlike the brooding and complex Logan we know, X-24 was a ruthless berserker devoid of any moral compass. He wasn't plagued by inner demons or a sense of duty, he was a pure force of destruction. What made him even more terrifying was his relentless pursuit of Laura, or X-23, who shared Wolverine's blood. Every time X-24 appeared on screen, a wave of anxiety washed over me, knowing that this unrelenting monster would stop at nothing to achieve its grisly objectives. It's a chilling reminder of how alternate versions can take familiar heroes and twist them into our darkest nightmares. At number 3 is Poison. Thank you to Chronos200 for this suggestion. In this alternate version of Spider-Man the Other, Spider-Man's transformation takes a nightmarish turn under the Brooklyn Bridge. You see, instead of embracing his spider powers, he violently rejects them, decapitating his inner spider and leaving his metamorphosis incomplete. As if sensing the chaos, the Venom symbiote abandons MacGarren to merge with Peter Parker. A mental battle rages on, with the symbiote ultimately obliterating what remains of Peter's psyche. Stark Tower now becomes a battleground as the symbiote-possessed Peter, now Poison, confronts Aunt May and Mary Jane. Poison's deluded belief in his creation as an act of love drives him to offer Mary Jane a horrifying choice: to bond with the new symbiote spawn. Wolverine and Luke Cage try to stop him, but Poison's power proves overwhelming. The chilling climax reveals the extent of madness as he revives Gwen Stacy with the symbiote, transforming her into a Carnage-like monstrosity. In this unnerving alternate reality, Spider-Man is unrecognizable and fear lurks just around every corner. At number 2, Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers. Shout out to Damon Blackfriar 3238. You guys gotta make some better usernames, holy cow. In the wake of the Skrull invasion, Osborn ascended to power, wielding authority over S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Thunderbolts, bending them to his will. Under his Hammer agency, Osborn recruited a macabre roster of quote-unquote heroes. Among them, Bullseye is masqueraded as Hawkeye, Venom as Spider-Man, and Moonstone as Miss Marvel. Ares and Sentry lingered, tainted by their association with Osborn. Miss Marvel wisely refused to join the team, aware of Osborn's malevolent past. But Osborn's recruit of baddies didn't stop there. Daken assumed the mantle of Wolverine, while Novar became Captain Marvel. Osborn himself donned the Iron Patriot suit, a twisted embodiment of patriotism. At number 1, Spider Assassin. Shout out to Lil Do 9796 for bringing this one up. Spider Assassin is a version of our friendly neighborhood hero who's taken a dark turn. It all starts with a trip to Germany, a tragic loss, and a secret romance. You see, as Spider-Man teams up with Wolverine to take down Charlemagne, the stakes rise and morality blurs. The turning point in this reality comes when he chooses to save Charlemagne's sister, Alex, and spirals into a life of espionage and assassination. Now, what truly sets this Spider-Man apart is his enhanced spider sense. With training from Nebo, he transforms it into a weapon for seeing attacks before they're even conceived in the first place. It's an uncanny ability that makes him a formidable force, even modifying his web shooters to fire lethal bullets. Yet as he descends into darkness, this Spider-Man becomes an embodiment of moral ambiguity, losing his identity as the friendly neighborhood hero. And as such, he remains in Europe, accepting sinister assassination jobs, leaving us to ponder the full consequence of a spider sense weaponized to its full potential.
Number 10, Hellstrom. Hellstrom is Damon Hellstrom, also sometimes going by the name Damon Hellstorm, the son of Satan. His initial appearance in Marvel Comics was shrouded in controversy due to him being marked as, well, you know, the son of the devil. But in recent years, this all died down with the ultimate dissolution of the Comic Code Authority, which made moral judgment calls on what subject matter could be covered or touched upon, even in comics, a lot less controversial, let's just say, for the most part. Damon's father might not actually be the devil, as a few in Marvel Comics have made claims to this title. But either way, he still has become the ruler of at least a Hell Dimension, thanks to his birthright. While Damon is not known for appearing on the main Avengers team, he is known for being married to a fellow Avenger in the past, Hellcat, and has been a member of the Savage Avengers, which is why I'm counting him here. Although, lately, I feel like he's been a little less hero-y in the comics. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list. If you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like button? Do it, it's good for you. You know what people say? An apple a day keeps the doctor away, a like a day keeps me at bay from telling you all of that all the time. Number 9, Hellcat. We don't talk about Patsy Walker Hellcat that often on Top 10 Nerd, but lately, I don't know, I've just been in kinda like a Hellcat kind of mood, I guess. Hellcat is definitely a hero who's overlooked on the Avengers roster, and honestly, her history has granted her some pretty unique and fun powers. I had fun looking back into Hellcat's past to be like, oh yeah, she has all these cool things. She has some magical abilities, including the ability to basically like dodge magic and see through illusions, making her hard to target for any magic users. She even can tap into a demonic side of herself, calling upon demonic energy to give her a boost in certain realms and in certain instances. It's conditional, but still is pretty cool. Number 8, Hawkeye. Hawkeye is often thought of as just being a guy with some arrows who has really good aim. Kinda is that. But the fact that he's one of the few human members of the Avengers who doesn't have any superpowers per se, other than maybe like really enhanced eyesight, but not superpowered, just like abnormally good in ways that sometimes don't make sense, is exactly why he deserves more respect, more love, more admiration from us all. Hawkeye's Clint Barton doesn't have powers to rely on, and he still manages to keep up with the rest of his teammates. That's pretty awesome, I gotta say. I wasn't always a Clint fan, but I like Clint Barton, he's pretty cool. Number 7, Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman is another character who sometimes gets shafted in the comics, and she is a character who often gets compared to her seeming male counterpart, Spider-Man. Although truth be told, in canon continuity, Spider-Woman actually is older than Peter, and therefore in comic books history anyways, she was actually Spider-Woman before Peter was Spider-Man. She's canonically older, so I mean, she has a kid and everything. Something Peter has never really even been allowed to do permanently as a character, settle down, have kids, and grow up, all that good stuff. Although I would say that the fun of Jessica Drew is that she might be adulting really hard, but she never really fully grows up. She's always fun, sassy, and still figuring out so much of her life as she goes through it. To me, she's always been not only fun and badass, but also a relatable character, which is why I feel like she deserves to be featured more and get more respect from Marvel writers and fans alike, hence why she's on this list. Number 6, Black Knight. Honestly, probably one of the most underappreciated heroes we have as leader of the Avengers is the Black Knight. That's right, he was a leader of the Avengers, everyone. The Black Knight is a character who feels like lately he has faded into obscurity somewhat. I thought maybe with Kit Harington, made famous for his role as reluctant hero Jon Snow in the series Game of Thrones, playing Dane Whitman in the Eternals movie, we might actually see a resurgence of this character in the comics, and I was hyped for that, bolstered by his MCU appearance. However, while Dane's role as the Black Knight was teased at the end of the film with the appearance of his ancestral cursed sword, the Ebony Blade, we have yet to hear anything about the development of his announced series, and even Harington himself says he's basically in the dark on what Marvel's plans might be involving this character. So it seems like we might have to wait a bit longer for Black Knight to get the respect he so deserves from modern day fans, but hopefully that's coming at some point soon. Like, come on, Marvel, give me the Black Knight series, give me something, I want it. I feel like it could be cool and it would be very different. Number 5, Vision. Vision hasn't really had a major focus on him in some time. I love that he agreed to join up with Carol's Avengers, and as such is getting more time on the Avengers team in the present day, where he can once more be in the spotlight. But I do feel like there was a little period in there where Vision wasn't really doing much of anything. Vision might seem like a boring character devoid of personality because he's an android, but I would argue that at times he is maybe more human than the rest of his teammates. There are moments in the comics where for me he reminds me of another android that I know and love, Data from Star Trek. Often it is his humanity that seems to motivate him, and also seems to be something that Viz struggles with as well, both in realizing its existence within himself and in accepting that human part of himself. Like, I mean, you gotta realize it before you can accept it, but even when I feel like he's kinda like, oh, maybe that's what's going on, I feel like he's not willing to fully embrace his humanity. I know he's an android, but sometimes he's just some really human stuff, guys. Number 4, She-Hulk. She-Hulk recently just had her own solo series, which as far as I've read thus far is amazing, by the way. I haven't finished it yet, but yeah. That series unfortunately just ended, and honestly it bums me out. She-Hulk is Jennifer Walters, who contrary to some very loud opinions, is not just a gender swapped version of the Hulk. She is her own character in her own right, being being Bruce Banner's cousin, who he came to shortly after his transformation into the Hulk, kinda seeking some help from Jen. However, during his visit, Jen was attacked by criminals who were worried that she, as a lawyer, was going to take down their boss. A very real threat, since Jen is actually a pretty great criminal lawyer, or was so at the time anyways. Now she's more into superhero lawyering, but still. After this attack on her life and Bruce being forced into giving her an emergency blood transfusion to save it, Jen Walters was forever changed into the sometimes monster, mostly hero, She-Hulk. She-Hulk has had a tumultuous path throughout the comics, having her highs and her lows. She has had long runs and short runs, and I'm kinda disappointed she isn't doing more these days, especially considering she also just got her own Disney Plus series, so you'd think that would help to give her character a comic book boost, but not really apparently. Her recent series didn't even make it to 20 issues sadly, and like I said, it honestly was great. I'm not fully up to date, but trust me, the issues I've read are really good. You should check it out. It's like classic She-Hulk. It felt so like original She-Hulk times. Ugh, so good. Number 3, Captain Marvel. I would argue that in a way, Carol is only recently starting to get her due. Captain Marvel has been and always will be one of the strongest Avengers around when it comes to the team. She is a cosmic powerhouse who has overcome a ton of adversity, but when it comes to her getting the respect that she deserves, she has had honestly a rough past. There was the whole thing with Marcus Immortus, see Avengers 197 through 200 for that fiasco, and then there was Civil War II, which saw Carol deal with some major character issues regarding how she was presented and written at that time. She became the villain of the story that should have honestly been equal in terms of which Avenger fans sided with, like in Civil War I. However, that isn't how Civil War II went down. Lately, however, Captain Marvel is finally getting the respect she deserves, as she has recently become the leader of the Avengers as we move into this new Avengers era. I am excited to see this kind of development happening for Carol, who has always been a strong and intelligent character who understands how to best utilize and motivate a team. So see her in that leadership role, it's perfect for me. Number 2, Blue Marvel. Blue Marvel has barely made any appearances recently in the comics, despite being one of the greatest powerhouses that we've ever seen. It's downright rude if you ask me. If I'm missing something amazing that happened with him lately as well, let me know, but I don't think he's really even been around since the end of the Defenders Beyond series. Before that, he appeared in Doctor Doom series, I believe, but my question is, when are we getting a Blue Marvel series? Huh? Marvel? Give us that Blue Marvel series right now, I want to read it. While Blue Marvel has not been a member of the main Avengers roster, which honestly also seems insane to me, he has been a member of the Mighty Avengers, which is why I'm including him on this list. And also because, come on, Marvel, give us a solo series, do it. Number 1, Scarlet Witch. Only now is Scarlet Witch Wanda Maximoff starting to get the story she has so long deserved. For years, Scarlet Witch was epically burdened by her past and haunted by all of her misdeeds and mistakes she had made along the way. M-Day has to have been one of the worst moments in mutant history, and it's all kinda cause of Wanda. M-Day happened in 2005 in the comics as a result of Scarlet Witch striking out at mutant kind after the events of House of M, where she attempted to create a reality where many heroes were happy. Fortunately, she is now finally moving to a place of healing, refusing to be defined by her past while running a magic shop in Lockhill, New York, with the help of MCU's Darcy, appearing in the comics for the first time. Here, finally, Wanda refused to let her past define her present self. Yes, finally. It's only taken us since 2005. It's taken so long to get to this point, but we're finally here. Ugh. Poor Wanda. Number 10, Eli Bradley. Elijah Bradley, also known as Patriot of the Young Avengers, comes from a family with ties all the way back to a dark, hidden truth about Captain America. Back when Captain America successfully became a super soldier, the serum was lost with the passing of Professor Erskine, so to try and recreate the results, Colonel Walker Price and Dr. Wilfred Nagel took 300 African American soldiers from Mississippi to experiment upon. Only a handful of these men survived the awful experimentation, and only one of them survived the covert missions and assignments. His name was Isaiah Bradley, or as he was called then, the Black Captain America. This was Eli's grandfather. When a young Nathaniel Richards going by Iron Lad attempted to recruit superpowered beings to create a new Avengers team, he went to seek out Eli's uncle, who had also become a super soldier just like Isaiah, but he had gone missing, so instead Eli lied to Iron Lad, claiming to be a super
soldier due to a blood transfusion from his grandfather, and he volunteered for Iron Lad's team. Eli then began using the illegal mutant growth hormone pills to fabricate superhuman abilities. It wasn't until much later on that he did actually receive a blood transfusion from his grandfather and actually gained super soldier abilities. Number 9. Brandy Selby. Right now, the current star brand in the 616 universe is Brandy Selby, the daughter of Suzanne Selby, who became the star brand after the one before her, Kevin Connor, passed away, sending Suzanne on a path of destruction. The Avengers stepped in and had to help Suzanne deliver little Brandy, but unfortunately Suzanne passed away during the experience and attached the star brand to Brandy herself. The Avengers then took little Brandy back to Earth to raise her. Since Brandy's birth, she's used the star brand to fly and survive without oxygen in the vacuum of space, and she can use extremely powerful energy blasts that can take down multiple people at once. The only problem is that as Brandy uses her powers, she also ages herself up, becoming a young adult after unleashing a blast against the multiversal masters of evil alongside Captains America and Marvel. This really worried the Avengers, but they let her join up anyways, and she helped in the fight against Mephisto and the Council of Red. By the climax of that fight, she had become an old woman, and after sitting out for a lot of the fighting, she eventually sacrificed herself to undo all the damage done by the multiversal masters of evil. Number 8. Cassie Lang. As a young child, Cassie Lang suffered from a congenital heart defect. To save her life, her father, Scott Lang, stole Henry Pym's Ant-Man equipment and Pym particles, which he used to rescue Dr. Sondheim, the only doctor capable of curing Casey's condition. Now, sometime later, after the divorce of her parents, Casey's father joined the Avengers, and Casey spent a bunch of her time living in Avengers Mansion. Unbeknownst to anyone else though, Cassie used the time to secretly expose herself to Pym particles, in the hopes that she could be a superhero like her father. After Scott's death during Avengers Disassembled, Cassie began living with her mother and stepfather, and tensions were high. So one night, Cassie planned to leave home and join the Runaways, but on that same night, Cassie learned about the Young Avengers. Cassie and Kate Bishop went to the Avengers Mansion and found Iron Lad, Patriot, Hulkling, and Asgardian. Joining up as a new Avengers team, they defeated Kang the Conqueror and saved the world, and Cassie took on the superhero name of Stature. She has gone on as a mighty Avenger, fighting Dr. Doom, passing away and coming back. She joined the MCU, and she now goes by the superhero name Stinger. Number 7. Thor. Now, a lot of people don't look at Thor and think, the child of a superhero, but Odin's son is his name, and back in his heyday, a superhero Odin he became. That made sense, right? I don't know. Back millions of years ago, Odin Borson was one of the first members of a prehistoric team of Avengers who protected the Earth from all kinds of threats, from celestials to temporal incursions. So, when his son Thor set off to become a hammer-swinging hero, he was really just taking after his own poppy and following in Odin's massive footsteps. Becoming a founding member of the modern-day Avengers was really just a part of that when you think about it, but I think we can all agree that Thor's avenging feats are much more recognized than those of his dear old dad, who has become much more well known for ruling Asgard, having constant wars and battles with the other realms, and just being a big old grumpy grump. Number 6. Hulkling. With a name like Hulkling and the fact that he's green, you may think that Theodore Teddy Altman has some kind of Hulk-related powers, but you would be dead wrong. Funnily enough, Hulkling is actually the direct son of none other than the first ever Captain Marvel, Marvel of the Kree. Okay, but why is he green and can shapeshift? Well, that's because back during the Kree-Skrull War, the Super Skrull took Captain Marvel, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch and presented them to the Skrull Emperor. While being imprisoned, Captain Marvel and the Emperor's daughter, Princess Enel, got a little bit too close to one another, and about 9 months, or however long it takes for Skrulls, later, out popped a tiny little Kree-Skrull hybrid with superhuman strength, speed and stamina, and the ability to shapeshift. For a lot of his time, Hulkling would turn into a teenage-sized Hulk as a member of the Young Avengers, but thanks to his heritage, he has moved on to become the Emperor of the Kree-Skrull Empire. Number 5. Scar. From Hulkling to the actual son of the Hulk. When the Incredible Hulk was banished from Earth by the Illuminati, he crash landed on the planet Sakaar, which is where the Hulk met his second wife, Kaera. Unbeknownst to the Hulk though, when Sakaar was destroyed, Kaera actually gave birth to Hulk's first children, Scar and Hero Kala. Scar became an incredibly powerful warrior on the ruined Sakaar with a vendetta against his father. Luckily though, that vendetta was resolved. Scar is just a straight up badass. Thanks to his parentage, he heals fast, is resistant to cold and electricity, among other things, is practically immortal, can absorb radiation and control it, can breathe underwater, and even turn himself into stone, among many other things. After somewhat resolving things with his dad, Scar and Hulk trained with each other, fighting supervillains on Earth, and also aiding and eventually joining the Avengers. And Scar even acted as a double agent for Steve Rogers on the Dark Avengers team. Number 4. Wiccan. Wiccan, whose spiritual connection to Scarlet Witch is reminiscent of her two twin sons portrayed in WandaVision, exists in the comics as well. In both the comics and the MCU, his existence is made possible by Scarlet Witch's reality warping powers, although him and his brother are eventually erased from existence for the safety of everyone, including Wanda herself. Scarlet Witch later recovers her memories of her children, leading to a mental breakdown and the monumental event known as the House of M. Following those events, it is revealed that her children were reborn through reincarnation. Wiccan, as one of her spiritual sons, has inherited his mother's remarkable magical abilities. Like Scarlet Witch, Wiccan wields magic to manipulate reality, and in certain timelines, he even ascends to the role of Sorcerer Supreme in the future. He has been a part of the New Avengers, Avengers Idea Mechanics, the Young Avengers, and the Secret Avengers. Number 3. Speed. Speed, also known as Tommy Shepard, joined the ranks of the Young Avengers during a critical mission prompted by the abduction of their teammate Hulkling by Kree Sentries. As his moniker suggests, Speed possesses extraordinary speedster abilities that set him apart. He can attain speeds that easily breach the supersonic threshold. Beyond sheer swiftness though, Speed can manipulate the molecules within objects, a capability that can lead to explosive outcomes or make him completely intangible. His rapid cognition also enables him to process information at extraordinary speeds, granting him a tactical advantage in high-stakes situations. A noteworthy moment in Speed's journey was a thrilling race against the veteran speedster Quicksilver, aka his uncle. While Quicksilver emerged as the victor, it became evident that Speed held immense potential for growth and development. During this period, he played an integral role in a daring mission to liberate his spiritual mother, Scarlet Witch, from the clutches of Latveria, alongside his brother. Number 2. Laura Kinney. There are a few characters with powers similar to Wolverine, and there are even a few who are clones of Laura herself, but of all these characters, Laura is certainly the best and definitely the most fan-loved. Her powers are very similar to Logan's, with her primary mutant power being an accelerated healing factor, and obviously she also has those retractable bone claws, only she has 2 in her forearms and 1 in each foot. Sounds pretty uncomfortable to me, but hey, to each their own. She was obviously a clone and grew up being made to be a weapon, so of course she has an extremely haunted past, but with Logan as a father figure in her life, she grew up under him, and she even did the same for Gabrielle Kinney, another clone who Laura considers her younger sister, and she became an Avenger and an X-Men, so good job. Number 1. Bloodstone. Elsa Bloodstone is the daughter of the once immortal monster hunter Ulysses Bloodstone. Ulysses trained Elsa from birth to inherit the family business, but using the word trained is kind of an understatement. As a rite of passage, Ulysses made Elsa face the Blight Beast when she was just a baby. He tried to remove her, quote, weaknesses by throwing her to a horde of great white sharks, and as her first monster kill, he made her face a clip-off and then allowed her to get infected by its blood as punishment for just taking too long. It's all the stuff that loving fathers are known for. But she did indeed jump in after her father's passing, taking up the tradition and becoming one of the best monster hunters in the world. As part of her inheritance, she received the Bloodstone Choker, granting her enhanced strength, stamina, speed, and durability, and an enhanced healing factor. But those are powers she did already possess to a certain degree thanks to the blood running through her veins, which is also toxic to vampires, and even if one did bite her, she's immune to the vampire curse. Cool little fact for you. As you can imagine, her attributes plus her profession as one of the best monster hunters in the world made her a valuable asset when she was part of the Avengers.
Number 10. Nick Fury's casting in the films. One of the most interesting facts for me when it comes to the Avengers in regards to the films is the fact that Samuel L. Jackson was actually cast as part of a deal he made with Marvel in regards to them using his likeness in their Ultimate line without actually first asking him. That's right, they borrowed Jackson's likeness for their Ultimate version of Nick Fury of Earth 1610. This version of Fury actually became so popular that he was later incorporated into the main comic book line, with Earth 616 getting Nick Fury Jr., who looks quite similar to the Ultimate version of the character. When Samuel L. Jackson found out about Marvel using his likeness for Nick Fury, he got in contact and basically made a deal with them that he would get to portray the character on the big screen when that day came. And that's exactly what happened, with Nick Fury being the one responsible for bringing the team together in the cinematic universe.
Number 9. Avengers Mountain. It's really sneaky of the Avengers to call their new HQ Avengers Mountain, because that thing ain't a mountain at all. It's a 2,000-foot tall corpse of a space god called the Celestial. Specifically, this Celestial is known as the Progenitor, and it came to Earth 4 billion years ago. They took that sucker's body and converted it into their home base with living quarters for each member of the team, a gym, a laboratory, and docks for ships. It's creepy as hell, and just to prove that point, they connected every quote floor in the quote building by turning the Celestial's spine into the quote spinal lift. How messed up is that? The Avengers partially reanimated the Progenitor's circulatory system and used the cosmic energy from its blood cells to turn one of the ventricles of its heart into a teleportation hub. They turned the Celestial's cerebrum into a server room called the Brain Room, with the most powerful computer terminal in the galaxy. Each finger of the Progenitor's right hand was turned into a personalized hanger. As some kind of weird sick joke, its left bicep got turned into the Avengers' strength and conditioning center, and its quote mustache area was turned into Tony Stark's locker room. They even turned the space god's intestinal tract into a detentional facility for captured villains. Not going to lie though, it's actually kinda cool. Nowhere is a celestial head, so it's not like this is anything new.
Number 8. First female Captain Marvel wasn't Carol. Fans of Monica Rambeau in the MCU, who is played by Teyonah Parris, may not know that when it comes to Captain Marvel, she actually held the title before Carol Danvers did. Yep, back in the day, Carol was known as Miss Marvel. With Carol already having a title that was inspired by her role model, the Kree hero Captain Marvel, Monica ended taking up that name for herself. She only kept it for a little while though, as then Mar-Vell's son showed up and wanted to use it, with her taking the name of Photon afterwards. Then moving on to my least favorite of her codenames, Pulsar, before settling on Spectrum back in 2013 in the comics. And she's been Spectrum pretty much ever since, though honestly I still really love the name Photon for her. Monica initially took the name of Captain Marvel back in the early 80s, and Carol actually wouldn't use that name until 2012. Also, if you're wondering why this is an Avengers fact, in case you didn't already know, Monica Rambeau actually is part of the Avengers in the comics.
Number 7. Daredevil delay. If not for a delay in sending Daredevil #1 to the printer, the Avengers might never have existed. According to Marvel's Senior Vice President of Publishing, Tom Brevoort, when the publisher realized that the first issue of Daredevil wasn't going to be ready in time for its scheduled print run, a mild panic set in, and Stan Lee proposed the idea of bringing a bunch of existing Marvel characters together to form a team similar to something like DC's Justice League of America. Since the characters are all established already, putting them into a team would get rid of the need to create complicated origin stories for the individual members, and the team could just jump right into whatever conflict the creators could come up with on short notice, which happened to be facing the trickster god Loki. The pair brainstormed for a while and came up with the Avengers, and then hastily put together the first issue and sent it off to the printer, and boom! The Avengers were born, with the Wasp coming up with their name. And then... Speaking of the Wasp, what a good lead in. I love that. Number 6. The Wasp led the team. Speaking of the Wasp, thank you for that lead in, Adam. That was so good. Did you plan that? I did.
Oh my gosh, so good. Although Janet Van Dyne hasn't been on the front lines lately when it comes to the Avengers team, did you know that she was not only one of the founding members of that team, but even their leader for a time? It's true. Honestly, I'd kind of love it if they brought back Jan to lead the team in some capacity. I feel like she just hasn't been doing that much of late, outside, sharing a mini-series with her adopted stepdaughter, who's also now the Wasp as well, Nadia. I heard that series was actually really great, by the way. I still need to read it. However, I feel like we could definitely use a return to the time when Janet was more well known and more prominent in the comics. Janet led the team for just over 60 issues, from issue 217 to issue 278 throughout the 1980s. Following her time as a leader, she left to join the West Coast Avengers for a while, becoming a permanent member of that team for a time. Also, what is it with the 1980s right now and Marvel Comics? I feel like I'm kind of obsessed with that era.
I feel like I always go through phases where I like focus on specific eras. Yeah. Number 5. Blueberry? The MCU's Iron Man is known for his confidence, heroic tendencies, inventions, jokes, and just being the guy who started it all, really. But another defining characteristic of Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark portrayal is how much he eats. Like, he is pretty much always eating. Some of Iron Man's most memorable moments in the MCU involve him eating food, but that wasn't planned. It ain't in the script. Tony's eating habits developed during the movies as a result of Robert Downey Jr. being hungry. Robert often brings his own food to set and hides it all so that he can eat during different scenes. This is kind of done out of necessity, as the demands of being a leading man often mean a grueling work schedule without major breaks. So instead of skipping meals or not eating all day, Downey often just eats during his scenes, which meant having Iron Man always eating in the MCU. That's why in the first Avengers movie, everyone remembers him walking around antagonizing Cap and making nice with Banner while wielding a shiny bag of blueberries, offering them to those who agree with him and denying them from those who opposed him with pretty great effectiveness.
Number 4. The most fantastic members. If you've ever wondered how separate the Avengers and the Fantastic Four are kept in the comics, the answer is, well, fairly separate, usually. While the FF are good friends with many of the Avengers team members and vice versa, they usually stick to fighting their own villains in their own comics. However, there was a time around issue 307 where the Fantastic Four in the late 80s, the 80s, here we go, when Sue and Reed decided to leave the team for a period. And they would be absent for almost 20 issues on that team. Now, where did they go? Well, for a few issues, they were actually members of the Avengers. However, their time on the Avengers team was even more short-lived than their absence from the Fantastic Four comic. They were members from issue number 300 of the Avengers to issue number 303, which is when they left that team. They would return temporarily along with other heroes who had been members in issue number 305, but that was pretty much it at the time for their Avengers run.
Number 3. First name Agent. Agent Phil Coulson, member of S.H.I.E.L.D., is one of a couple of characters that is pretty unique in comicdom, and that's because he was introduced for the first time in a movie only to end up as a recurring character in the comics afterwards. Specifically, the very first Iron Man movie, the birth of the MCU. The only other character in the last 20 years that has made this big of an impression on the comic community is Harley Quinn, originally introduced in Batman the Animated Series. Since his appearance in the 2008 film, Agent Coulson has appeared in the Iron Man 2 webcomic titled Phil Coulson, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., along with a new comic titled Battle Scars in 2011, and he's gone on to appear more and more. Although he seemed to pass away in Avengers at the hands of Loki, he had actually only passed for about 8 seconds before being revived, and he went on to actually do quite a bit, particularly in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In the 616 comic continuity though, he has had parts to play in Civil War II and Secret Empire alongside Deadpool, and then what's really crazy is that he went on to the point of no longer wanting an Avengers team, and he even sold his soul to Mephisto and warped reality to do it. But then Blade formed another group of Avengers and Coulson got trapped inside a Pandemonium cube. Never expected that from Phil. Gonna be honest.
Number 2. They're eternal. At the time that the Fantastic Four were briefly members of the Avengers, there were also some other folks you might recognize joining up with the team. You may or may not recognize them actually, as they aren't known for being the most popular group around, but I gotta be real with you, their latest series by Kieran Gillen was one of the best things happening in comics that I've read in the last few years. And if you've seen a certain movie that also released pretty recently within the last few years, you might know who I'm talking about here. Goodness, that comic book series, by the way, was so good, you should read it. We're talking about the Eternals. Not all of the Eternals have been members of the team, and they definitely aren't as iconic of members as the mainstays like Captain America and Iron Man, but I do enjoy the relationship the Eternals have with the Avengers, with some of them being former members. It strengthens their ally bonds, but it's also cool to think about just how much power Eternals like Cersei and Gilgamesh brought to their team during their time on it. Oh, and Star Fox, aka Eros, Thanos' brother, who is technically the first Eternal to join the Avengers, although not the first Eternal from Earth to join, rather the first Eternal from the planet Titan to join, because that's where he's from. There's Eternals everywhere.
Number 1. Avengers 1 million BC. Over 1 million years ago, the early human mutant known as Firehair became the avatar of the Phoenix Force and nearly destroyed the planet. Realizing that that's pretty bad and that she wasn't the only one capable of doing that, she began assembling a team of supernatural and mystical beings to protect humanity and Earth. The eventual team was made up of the Asgardian god Odin Borsun, the demigod sorcerer Agamotto, the Black Panther of the Panther tribe, the woolly mammoth riding Ghost Rider, which is so awesome, Iron Fist Fan Fei, and a super smart caveman who wielded the Star Brand, which made him look surprisingly like the Hulk. After fighting some corrupted Celestials as well as time-traveling villains from the present like Thanos, multiple Doctor Dooms, and Mephisto, the team eventually disbanded, and it was all because Odin really does not respect women. That's pretty much how it goes. After the passing of the team's Black Panther, Odin attempted to make advances on Phoenix only to be totally rejected for his lack of respect. After she went to visit the Panther tribe, her and the rest of the Avengers were summoned to Asgard. When they showed up, Odin had called them for an unannounced surprise wedding between him and Phoenix that was taking place right that second. Understandably disgusted, Phoenix left Asgard and Earth, intending never to return. The whole thing fractured the team and they only reunited one time to witness the birth of Thor. Number 10. Mantis. Mantis actually got her start in comics when she used her abilities to reform swordsman or Jacques Duquesne, which actually got her into the Avengers. Mantis's powers and abilities are more than what you may have gathered from her film counterpart. Mantis has complete control over her entire body, which in turn gives her peak human agility, the ability to accelerate healing through force of will, and an empathic nature enabling her to communicate telepathically with and sense the emotions of others as psychic vibrations. She can also control her heart and respiratory rate and blood flow as well. Her mastery of the Kotati priest's martial arts, which focuses on the manipulation of nerve endings and pressure points, has enabled her to knock out beings as powerful as Thor, and her telepathic and empathic abilities are improved upon thanks to the two little antennae that she has coming out of her head. But it doesn't stop there though. Mantis also gained abilities when she merged with the Kotati, such as being able to communicate with both plants and animals, and survive in space in a physically solid energy form. She can transfer herself from plant life to plant life across interstellar distances or even dimensions, creating a new body from the plant life wherever she ends up. She can transmit and receive telepathic impressions, she has precognitive powers, and more recently she can fire powerful pyrokinetic energy blasts from energy fields, communicate directly with cosmic beings such as eternity and death, and completely control her personal energies as well as her physical form. I don't want to keep talking about it anymore. Number 9. Hawkeye. Clint Barton is essentially just a regular human man, but despite that, and likely because of his abilities and talents, he is considered a power level 4 according to Nick Fury's intel, whatever that means. Those aforementioned abilities include being a master of archery in the use of regular bows, longbows, compound bows, and crossbows, with basically perfect accuracy, able to fire multiple arrows at a single target in just a few seconds, hitting multiple targets in a few quick strokes, and directly hitting small targets at the greatest of distances. But he now also has near perfect precision with any aimed or thrown weapon. He is at the peak level of human eyesight possible, is in peak athletic human condition with peak strength, endurance, and reflexes. He's an expert acrobat, tactician, and master martial artist, but just listing off his abilities isn't going to give you a proper understanding of how cool Hawkeye is. So what has he done? In Avengers Volume 3 number 14, Hawkeye was cornered by 17 marksmen and took them all down without taking a single life. And in Hawkeye Volume 4 number 1, Clint ran into a wanted criminal in a bar and took him down silently, somehow fracturing his neck with a deck of cards. I don't know. Number 8. Tigra. When Greer Nelson first came on the scene, she was just known as the Cat, and was given powers tied to her costume. But that all changed when she became Tigra, or Tigra, however you want to pronounce it. Mutating into a human-tiger hybrid in a ritual that bound her to the quote cat people, which while it may be a silly name, was a race of humanoid cats who were created in the Middle Ages, so cat people. Now before you laugh at her for looking silly, just know that in her tiger form, Tigra is granted some useful abilities. Her superhuman strength allows her to lift over 10 tons with her leg muscles, allowing her to perform a standing jump of 12 feet. She can run at speeds of around 70 miles per hour, has superhuman durability, agility, reflexes, and stamina, and as we all know, cats have heightened senses and like to knock things off of wherever you carefully place them. And as far as I know, the former is still the same with Tigra, whose senses are about 10 times that of a human's. Tigra's eyesight can sense the infrared portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, allowing her for night vision. She can more easily detect the movements of an opponent. Her hearing is so strong that she can detect a ball of tissue paper being dropped at a distance of 40 feet, just like every other cat, and her sense of smell is so developed she can selectively sort through odors just to track someone. Number 7. Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is one of, if not the greatest martial artist on Earth. He was trained from birth to become the ultimate warrior. He can take on multiple opponents at once and can even defeat people much more superhumanly powerful than he is. In fact, in the White Hot Room, when the Phoenix organized a tournament to pick who would be the new host, the only reason that Shang-Chi lost was because he refused to take someone's life, having him expelled from that tournament. He is particularly skilled in Chinese martial arts, but his skill branches out to many other forms of martial arts as well. In one case, he even worked with Spider-Man to create a new martial art based on Peter's powers. Shang-Chi also is able to manipulate Chi energy, which he can use to enhance his strength and durability, and can even detect others based on their energy, like he did when he detected a psionically masked Jean Grey. But Shang-Chi gets a much more significant boost of power when he's using the 10 rings. He can use those rings as projectiles, manipulate their size, and use them to levitate or even fly. The rings grant the martial master superhuman strength, durability, speed, and stamina, and he can even manipulate the energies from the rings to do many other things as well. And then, just to top it all off, thanks to the other side of his heritage, Shang-Chi inherited his mother's psionic abilities to communicate with his blood relatives, even the deceased ones. Freaky. Number 6. Jack of Hearts. Jonathan Hart is a hero you may not have heard of, or maybe you have, I don't know. What I do know is that Jack Hart was the son of a brilliant scientist, a scientist that created the ridiculously efficient liquid sci-fi fuel called Zero Fluid. In a tragic comic book backstory, that fluid was exposed to Jack and it gave him his awesome but difficult to control abilities. Importantly, he was also part alien, with his mother hailing from the Contraxian race. Now, due to his cellular mutation that took place after his Zero Fluid exposure, Jonathan Hart is now able to produce pink concussive energy beams and blasts from his hands and body, taking up the incredibly clever name of Jack of Hearts. Jack of Hearts can use his zero energy blast to fly at speeds currently not specifically known, but he has flown halfway across the United States in 3 minutes flat, which is pretty fast. His biological structure was reformed to basically give him the superhuman starter pack abilities, but his strength has been able to lift 25 tons. He has enhanced speed, stamina, healing factor, and durability, able to withstand some pretty heavy hits and survive in the vacuum of space. He also went through another mutation which gave him the ability to think as fast as a computer can, which is really cool, and he can retain and retrieve stored information from deep recesses of his brain, which is also really cool. Number 5. Blue Marvel. Adam Brashear, a former Marine and scientist turned superhero, stands as one of Marvel Comics' most formidable heavyweights. Not only does he have immense physical strength, but he also ranks among the most brilliant minds in the Marvel Universe. He's an underutilized character who happens to be one of my personal favorites. His origin story unfolds in the tumultuous 1960s amid a groundbreaking project centered on utilizing antimatter as an energy source. However, an unforeseen explosion during the experiment forever changed Adam and his close friend, Connor. The cataclysmic event transformed Adam into a living, stable antimatter reactor, giving him extraordinary superhuman abilities. Embracing his powers, he assumed the mantle of the Blue Marvel, a masked hero dedicated to safeguarding the world, but tragically, Connor's fate took a darker turn as he became Anti-Man, a villain. Their epic clashes reached a climax during one unforgettable battle when the Blue Marvel's mask was torn away, revealing his identity as an African-American hero. In the racially charged climate of the 1960s America, President John F. Kennedy urged him to retire prematurely to alleviate tensions. It wasn't until decades later that he came back as a full-on superhero and kicked some serious butt in the Avengers. Number 4. Cersei. Sersi is a member of the Eternals, an evolutionary offshoot of humanity gifted with amazing powers and abilities to look after the human race through the ages, which is similar but also just a smidgen bit different from the Eternals' movie counterparts. As an Eternal, Sersi's body is augmented by cosmic energy and she has total mental control over her entire molecular structure, which allows her and other Eternals to be immortal, indestructible, and invulnerable to pretty much anything. Sersi has enough strength to bench 20 tons, but thanks to her telekinesis she can augment that to lift about 25 tons. She can also fly at around 760 miles per hour, which is, I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty dang fast. She can project cosmic energy, has telepathy that allows her to hypnotize weak-minded fools, but she can also teleport, but she hates it, and she is even able to project images from her mind, which is such a cool idea for an ability. Those are all the powers that we don't see in the Eternals movie, because arguably the ability she has the most talent in is her matter transmutation ability, which allows Sersi to transmute nearly any item or being into almost whatever she wants them to be. Among the Eternals, she has the highest ranking of power with this ability, and it allows her to self-heal any injury she does actually sustain, which aren't many because she's awesome. Number 3. Luke Cage. Criminal turned unstoppable superhero is quite the feat, but Luke Cage handles that with grace, becoming a pillar of his community and even eventually becoming mayor of New York itself. Whenever I think of Luke Cage, the word unstoppable is what actually comes to mind. I just think of him as this big brick wall just standing in the way of anyone who would try to harm anyone else. Luke went through a super soldier experiment known as the Burstein process, which increased his cellular regeneration rate. This means that Luke was given a level of super strength that, with training and experience, has made him strong enough to lift 50 tons. But there have been times where he's exceeded that, and this strength lets him perform thunderclaps, leap incredible distances, and he's been able to grab onto the back of an aeroplane and force it to come to a complete stop. That is nuts. Alongside his strength, he was obviously given superhuman stamina to match with that, but most know him for his nigh invulnerability. Luke's skin, muscles, and bone tissue are about as hard as titanium steel, making him basically immune to bullets and blades. He can withstand hits of around 1 ton and blasts of 150 pounds of TNT, but those numbers wax and wane depending on the story. He has taken hits from people far stronger than himself and survived falls from 90 stories up. If Peter Parker is the heart of New York, Luke Cage is basically like the wall. Number 2. Wasp. Traditionally, the Wasp has been considered one of the less powerful members of the Avengers. Her unique abilities, which include shrinking, flight, and emitting energy blasts through her Wasp sting, are undeniably formidable, yet individually they might be classified as street-level powers. In the presence of iconic figures like Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man, few anticipated that the Wasp would rise to prominence within the team's ranks. However, the Wasp defied those expectations in remarkable fashion. She achieved the distinction of becoming the first woman to lead the Avengers ever, a feat that astonished her teammates and fans alike. Her years of experience endowed her with wisdom and capabilities that far exceed the sum of her individual powers. The Wasp's mastery of her abilities, coupled with her intelligence and resourcefulness, transformed her into a formidable hero who surpassed the expectations of everyone who had ever underestimated her. And finally, in at number 1 today is Protector. Novar, also known as the Protector, is an extraterrestrial figure who carries a bit of a renegade reputation. In a remarkable display of his power, he once took down both Thor and Captain Marvel simultaneously, an impressive feat by any measure. However, it's worth noting that many readers may not be familiar with the character of the Protector, as Novar has gained more substantial recognition among fans as Marvel Boy, particularly through his involvement with the Young Avengers. Hailing from Earth 200080 as a Kree super soldier, Novar has since laid claim to the vast universe of Earth 616 as his own. His unique set of powers include, and I'm not joking, explosive fingernails, psychedelic saliva, wall-crawling abilities, heightened senses, and a remarkable conscious control over various bodily functions, among other powers. Novar's prowess in combat is truly formidable, a trait that certainly captured the attention of his teammate turned lover, Hercules. In shedding his Avengers affiliation and the Protector moniker, Novar has found his true calling and thrived as a member of the Young Avengers, the West Coast Avengers, and has even transitioned into the role of an interstellar diplomat and a Guardian of the Galaxy.
At number 10 is Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon. Thank you to Rodney Lindsay 849 for suggesting him in part 1 of the series. Sam Wilson is the guy who became the new Captain America after Steve Rogers hung up his shield. But here's the thing, in the Avengers, even though he took on Cap's mantle, he's not exactly getting the spotlight he deserves. See, Steve Rogers, the OG Captain, is a tough act to follow, no doubt, but Sam's got the heart, the skills, and the wings to match. He's proven himself time and time again, but fans still don't give him the credit he's due. Let's not forget, he's carrying on the legacy of Captain America himself, and that's no small task. But nevertheless, Wilson's a great successor. This guy's got some mad skills. He can fly like a boss with those wingsuit thingies, plus he's got his vibranium shield that he rocks just as good as Cap did. But for some reason, he's often just pushed to the sidelines. At number 9 is White Tiger. Thank you to Victor Sage _. You might not have heard much about her, and that's honestly a real shame. White Tiger, aka Ava Ayala, made her appearance in the Ultimate Spider-Man and some Lego Marvel games. She's got a pretty cool backstory too, being the sister of Hector Ayala, the original White Tiger. But here's the thing, she's been kind of left in the shadows. With her agility, strength, and that insanely underrated mystical amulet she's got the potential to be a real force on the Avengers team. There's also that whole fling with Peter Parker that fans seem to be really into. So it's high time we get to see more of White Tiger in action. She's got what it takes to be one of the strongest Avengers, and it's about time she got the recognition she deserves. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. I would really appreciate it. At number 8, we got Hercules. The Avengers have housed a plethora of gods, you guys. But you see, when people think about godly Avengers, usually it's Thor that hogs the spotlight. But hold on a second, because Hercules deserves some serious recognition too. He's got the strength, the charisma, and an impressive set of abs, yet he often plays second fiddle to the god of thunder. Imagine being a god yourself and still living under someone else's shadow. Cool, right? Like, even when you go into Herc's fandom wiki, his featured quote is literally a self-comparison to Thor about how whatever Thor can do, Hercules can do even mightier. It seems like no matter what, if Hercules is a part of the conversation, Thor has to be too. Or Maestro, I guess, but you get my point, right? Hercules deserves better. He's taken on cosmic threats, lifted entire mountains, and shown that he's more than just a pretty face. Let's give Herc some time to shine, Marvel. After all, the Avengers could use a bit more divine power in their ranks. At number 7 is Loki. Wait, what? Now, you might be thinking, why are you even considering Loki the literal antagonist of the first Avengers movie in a discussion about the Avengers? Well, it's because Loki is one of those characters who doesn't neatly fit into the good or bad box. He's kind of like that friend who's mostly a pain, but sometimes has moments of real kindness. When it comes to the Avengers, we often focus on the big names, but Loki's different. He's a trickster, a troublemaker, and he's caused his fair share of chaos, but deep down, there's a part of him that wants to do the right thing, and frankly, that's what makes his character so fascinating. So is Loki good or bad? Well, it's not that simple. See, people aren't just good or bad, they're a mix of both, and Loki here is no exception. He's made mistakes, but he's also shown that he can change and do the right thing when it counts. And so in the end, whether you think Loki deserves better or not, there's one thing for sure. He's a character who keeps us guessing, and that's what makes him one of the most intriguing Avengers of them all. And number 6 is Quicksilver, recommended by Nelson SC 9670 and Rodney Lindsay 849. Again, Quicksilver bit the bullet way too early in the MCU. I mean, don't get me wrong, Wanda's cool and all with her reality-bending powers, but her brother Pietro, aka Quicksilver, well, he definitely got the short end of the stick. See, he's got super speed, which is super awesome, but here's the deal. Quicksilver didn't get nearly enough screen time or development in the movies. I mean, sure, he had his moments, but they were just glimpses of what he could do. With a power like super speed, there's so much potential for epic action sequences. I mean, we've all seen the X-Men scenes. He could have been a real game changer in the MCU battles. Plus, he's also got that snarky attitude that could have added some humor to the team. So let's give Quicksilver the love he deserves, and maybe, just maybe, if fans cry loud enough, maybe we'll get another shot in the MCU. At number 5 is Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones is an Avenger who's been on the sidelines for way too long. You might have recognized her from her Netflix series, but in the comics, she's a powerhouse. Super strength, durability, and some mean investigative skills. Yet she's often overshadowed by big names like Iron Man and Thor. Now, while she's not out there space battling aliens, her street level heroics are just as vital. Imagine if she had just a little more screen time and a chance to shine alongside the heavier hitters. Jessica Jones deserves way more recognition and a bigger role in the MCU. At number 4 is War Machine. Now, many people just think of War Machine as sort of an Iron Man light, but he deserves way more credit than that. I mean, come on, his name is literally War Machine. The guy's suit of armor is loaded with firepower. Sure, he doesn't have the same level of tech or even charisma as Tony Stark, but he's a vital member of the team. Think about it, War Machine is a military asset that brings a different set of skills to the table. He's got the experience, the discipline, and the tactical know-how. Plus, the suit of his can go toe-to-toe with some serious threats. So let's not forget about War Machine when we talk about the Avengers, because he's definitely one of the strongest and deserves a lot more recognition. And number 3 is Jack of Hearts, recommended by Robert Pike 5670. Now, the Jack of Hearts isn't your typical Avenger. See, he's got this super crazy cosmic power, like he can manipulate energy and stuff. Sort of like he's a walking nuclear reactor. But here's the thing, he's always kind of been underrated despite his insanely powerful superpowers. He's been in and out of the Avengers, never really getting the spotlight he deserves. I mean, okay, just imagine having that kind of power and not being in the spotlight. It's like having a Lamborghini and just keeping it in the garage, am I right? The Jack of Hearts is definitely one of the strongest Avengers, period, and it's about time he got the recognition he deserves. And number 2 is Madam Web. There's one character who's been lurking in the shadows, and I'm not talking about a stealthy superhero. I'm talking about Cassandra Webb here, aka Madam Web. Now, Madam Web is kind of like the unsung hero of the Marvel Universe. See, she's got this crazy ability to see into the future and across the multiverse. Basically, she's the ultimate guidance counselor for Spider-Man. But here's the thing, folks, she's been nowhere to be found in the movies. Not in the MCU, not in the Spider-Verse films, nada. I mean, come on, with her powers, she could have helped the Avengers dodge a lot of disasters. So let's hope one day Madam Web gets her time in the spotlight, because she's the unsung hero in the background who deserves a lot more love on the big screen in the foreground. And at number 1 is Black Widow. Honestly, I'm stunned that nobody mentioned Natasha Romanoff in the comments of part 1, which is surprising, because if there's any superhero who got relegated to the sidelines during the entire run of the MCU, it's Natasha Romanoff. Now, what's impressive about her is that she's just a regular human being, no superpowers. Yet she's keeping pace with all of these superhuman heavy hitters. But here's the kicker, she even went as far as to sacrifice herself during Infinity War, way before she even got her own solo film. Like, talk about a major oof. I mean, sure, eventually we got that prequel, but I mean, it would have been nice to see her come back at the end of Endgame. She deserved a lot more screen time, don't you think? You see, the strongest superheroes aren't just the ones with the flashiest powers, and Black Widow, being a human who just basically went to the gym her entire life, definitely proved that.